Welcome to the It's Your Choice podcast, where we learn how to rewire our brains to live the life we desire. On with the show. Welcome to the It's Your Choice podcast. Today on the show, we have George Brooks. George, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
So we have been chatting just a little bit, and your life so far has been quite the journey. So why don't you share with everybody a little bit about what you've gone through and your experiences, and kind of what that has then made you kind of figure out what your purpose and mission is.
Right. Well, at age 7, I began showing symptoms of bipolar disorder. Throughout my youth and adolescence, I dealt with emotional abuse, pretty severe from my father, eating disorder, childhood obesity, poverty. In my adult life, young adult life, I dealt with a fractured marriage, divorce trauma, custody battles, 10-year addiction to cocaine that I survived and came out of, various challenges in terms of health and mental health. And about 7 years ago, post divorce, I relocated and I dedicated myself to my recovery, toward fortifying myself and getting rid of the addiction and dealing with my mental health and health issues. So I started therapy, been in therapy 6 years, and I began my nonprofit, Med Association. And I found that that was my purpose. That was going to be my ministry, to use my scars and experience to try to help destigmatize, decriminalize, and foster understanding about mental illness, so people would be more apt to get help, to seek solutions, and not feel as though it's something they should be ashamed of. So that's what I've been up to. I'm currently a CEO of my own nonprofit, Meta Association. A couple months ago, I opened a life coaching business, Meta Mentoring Mindset and Coaching. So we're off and running as far as doing work in the actual community. My life coaching business is really geared toward Black men that are dealing with mental health issues or emotional issues, to help them navigate through those situations and improve their life. But we do help everyone. So it's been quite a journey. A lot of scars, a lot of tears, sweat, and bloodshed. But I've gotten to this point. So what I'm trying to do is just fulfill my purpose spiritually and try to help as many people as possible.
Well, that's I want to say that's great. It's great that you're helping as many people as possible. Unfortunate that you had to go through what you went through to give you that ability to help people. It's kind of
Right.
both sides there. So I'm just wondering, so you started to show signs of bipolar at 7. Do you think that was because of the situation that you were in growing up, and that was your way of dealing with the stuff that was going on with your childhood?
Well, I think it was a perfect storm of genetic factors, environmental factors, prompts from what I've been through, and trauma. I'm also a type 1.5 diabetic, and oftentimes where that manifests itself is a combination of genetics and environmental factors and habits. So I look at it as being sort of the same with my bipolar disorder. So you cannot deny the genetic component. You cannot deny the biological component, but when you add those other mitigating factors in, you have a perfect storm for the manifestation of your illness.
Right, right. And so you started going to therapy a few years ago. I think you said about 6 or 7 years ago.
Yes.
Um, why didn't you go sooner?
I think before I was not ready mentally for the accountability that comes with therapy. I think for a long time I did not recognize the value in it. I did not see its point in terms of my treatment, my overall treatment, which is medicinal, spiritual, physical, and therapeutic. Once I did and began to actually do the work and take that hard look in the mirror that we all had to take, that we all need to take, I just wasn't. It just wasn't going to work for me. But once I embraced it and committed myself to putting the work in and going forward, it really has worked for me. I try to do a session once a week, and it keeps me going. And it's only because I engage in the therapy. I'm an active participant. I'm not a believer in just going to therapy once, twice a week and just letting that be it. You have to put in the work. outside of therapy, and you have to really be committed to yourself. So I'm a staunch advocate for therapy, even for those not living with a diagnosable mental health condition.
I completely agree. I think everybody needs therapy, like every human being, because we've all been through something. Some of us way worse than others, some of us way more than others, but we've all been through something that has been traumatic to us in our
Sure.
own. And as children, especially when we're young, we don't know. And so we do get those traumas that we don't think about other people. You just think, oh, it's part of growing up or it's this or that, but it does have an effect, and it has a lingering, long lasting effect. Or I say to some people, it's the ripple effect that keeps
Mm.
going almost forever until we deal with it or do something about it. And unfortunately, we tend to deal with it different ways.
Sure,
Some
sure.
people, they just eating disorders, binge eating, drinking, drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, whatever it may be, there becomes that coping mechanism. And I was listening to something a few months ago. It might have been just like a clip from a podcast or something, but the person said, um, when we're dealing with alcoholics, we need to realize alcohol's not the problem; it's
Right.
their solution. I was like, what? And at first,
Because
I'm like, they're alcoholic. The alcohol's the problem. But then it didn't click at first. But he said, no, alcohol is their solution to the problem that they have, or what they're going through or dealing with. They go to the alcohol or the drugs or the eating or the whatever that vice is their solution in their mind. It's not the actual problem.
right, the addiction is the response to the unresolved trauma. It's a symptom of the deeper scars. It's a symptom of the things that are left unattended to in terms of resolving your trauma, whether that means coming to peace with it or trying to work past it. So, and if you don't deal with your trauma, it's going to manifest itself in one way or another, whether it be substance abuse, whether it be promiscuity, whether it be another self-injurious habit that you take on because it gets to be a panacea for that pain. It dulls the pain. But until you deal with the source of that pain, thoroughly and fully and commit yourself to healing, you're going to stay in the throes of addiction. You're going to stay in the throes of self-destructive behavior.
Yeah, it's true. It's like it's the Band-Aid, right?
Mhm.
It covers it up, but it doesn't actually fix whatever the issue or the problem may be,
Right.
which then also brings us to a bit of another point is depending upon what that problem is. I mean, we don't like to share our problems. I
Mhm.
mean, especially nowadays, right? Social media, we all have to have the perfect life, the best vacations. We're always happy. Everything is wonderful. And people don't want to be admitting, I'm having a problem. I'm not doing well. And I've only had it said to me a few times where somebody I know will call me and say, I'm not doing good right now. And
Right.
I'm always like, that's that's good in the sense of that they can call and they know and they are willing to say it out loud,
Mhm. Well,
because
we
that's
have
a
to.
big step.
Right. Well, the thing is, we, especially in terms of social media, we're comfortable in selling lies. We're comfortable
Mm.
in showing that we're living our best life, but we're not honest and transparent about what's really going on with us. So I'm very, very critical of how we consume social media. I think it needs to be relegated to a diet, just in terms of all media that we consume for our mental and emotional health. And we honestly care too much about image. We honestly care too much about what other people think, and that can be an impetus to us really expressing ourselves and getting our help. If you're worried about what your coworkers think, it's going to make you not so apt to disclose what's going on with you, especially if there's something that's public. But that's the only way we heal. Uh, One thing about me is I'm completely transparent about what I've been through. I'm completely honest with it. That's my testimony. That's what I have to offer the world. And maybe through my transparency and honesty, other people can be honest with themselves And once they do that, then they can embark upon the steps to facilitate their healing and their growth and their prosperity.
Absolutely. I mean, if we're not honest with ourselves to begin with, we can't get better. We can't
Right,
become happy. We can't, whatever it is that we're looking to get over, whether it's an addiction or just a negative attitude, miserable, hating life, nothing goes right, everything is wrong, like all of that negative stuff. If we have to realize if that's what we're always thinking, then that's always what's going to appear. Right? We have to be
right,
like, I am negative all the time. Do I want to be that way? And then what do I need to change it?
right. And any change comes with an initial shift in mindset. Um, until you become self-aware and take accountability for your own trauma and the and your part for your life not being what you want it to be, you're gonna have a victim mindset. Oh, woe is me. Someone did this to me. And with social media and the woke culture that's so popular now, just to be a victim. Oh, me. And you really have to grow up and be an adult and put your big boy pants on and just understand I'm accountable for me.
Right.
Once you do that, I'm responsible for me. And once you do that, then you can look at healing and look at addressing those things because you're not in that victim mindset anymore. You're not thinking, oh, this is what the world has done to me. You're thinking, what do I need to do for myself to deal with society, to deal with the world, to deal with my trauma, my family, my relationships. So it really starts off with accountability. And when I was at my lowest, I could not look at myself in the mirror for about a year. I honestly couldn't. I would pass the mirror and look down. But until I took that time to be alone in my solitude, to be prayerful, to realize my spirituality and my faith, and try to bring everything together, and took that day to look into that mirror and look into my eyes and see what I needed to do, nothing was going to change.
Mhm. And you're right, it really is accountability. I know of people and one's very close to me, and it's so hard when it's, well, so and so did this. Well, this happened. Well, so and so it did that. And it's like, yes, those things happened, but how we respond to them. Like, for example, my mom, she just recently passed, but my father passed away when I was 6, and it was a car accident, so it was completely unexpected. Um, and I said to my mom, like, even years later, like 40 years later, and it's like she never got over it. And I said, "But it's not that it happened, like, you're not the victim. Like, how you respond and how you've been dealing and what you do to handle that, that's what you're responsible for. That's the
Right.
only thing you can control." Like, and other people who their spouses have cheated on them. They're like, well, he's the bad. Yes, he did bad, or she did bad. Like either way, but it's how you respond is the only thing that we can control. We can't. So I can't be the victim of it. I can only say, okay, well, this has happened. I didn't cause it, but it has happened. Now, how am I going to deal with it? And that then is the projection of where my life will go and depending upon the decisions I make.
Yes, and one thing that's aided in my recovery, and what you're saying relates directly to mindset. Life happens for you, not to you. That's the first thing you need to change is how you look at it. But Stoicism, the study of that classic philosophy, has helped me tremendously. I read the works of Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, and one of the tenets of Stoicism is that it's not what happens to you; you cannot control it, but you can control your response. And that's helped me in dealing with many of my issues as far as tempering my emotional response. I rely on logic before emotion nowadays, and that served me well. So you have to find inspiration to heal yourself from anywhere. One thing, my third, he was 12 at the time. My son taught me how to play chess. And he was like, Dad, approach things logically like you do when you play chess sometimes when you get frustrated. And this helped me out tremendously. So you have to nitpick and find your own ways to cope. you have to find
Mhm.
things that are going to be unique for you and that are going to be effective. And if you don't put that work in, then you will fall back on substances. You will fall back on codependency. You will fall back on uh, vices and things like that. So, and that's part of just getting rid of that victim mindset because you can wallow in that. And another important thing is tighten your circle. Be careful who you're around. People are energy vampires. People can be, a succubus and steal your spirit. So when you're assessing your life, you have to look at every relationship you have, you know, and not be myopic about it, and look at it. How does it benefit you? Are you giving more than what you're receiving? Is it symbiotic instead of parasitic? So those things all play into it because to recover, whether you have a mental illness or not, it takes a total life shift. It takes a total mindset change. You have to assess everything about yourself, and you have to be willing to change it. And you can't be afraid to change it. And understand in changing things, you may lose people. I've been estranged from my family for 7 years. I have not spoken to them. But you know what? That's okay because that's a healthier space for me to be in mentally. So, when you go into recovery, and not just recovery, but self improvement and self actualization, there are things that you hold dear that you will lose, but you have to look at what you have to gain as well.
It's so true, and I think that's part of what makes it hard is we know what we know, we're comfortable with it, even though we know it may not be good for us, but we are knowing we're scared of the change because if you want to change your life, you need to change your personality. You have to change who you are as a person. And most people who know us like us for who we are, and they, in a way, don't want to see us change. Now, obviously, with addiction and things like that, people do want to see changes to not have that. But we have certain people that are in our lives that won't want us to see us change. They still want us to be that person with the addiction who we can go out and drink with, who we can go get high with, who we can go do whatever with. There's those people. And when we change, we can't be around those people. And it's hard when it is like the best friends, the family members. But we have to realize that those are the negative energies, and we do need to let them go for ourselves. And I've had to do that with family. Just last year, it was a point with some stuff going on, and I just said, you know what? Don't send me these messages anymore. Don't.
Right.
I'm not. They are ridiculous, and for my own mental health, because then I'm thinking about it, and then you send me a message, and then I get blocked where I can't even respond, and then I think about it for days, and then things are a bit better. Then a few weeks later, it happens all over again. I'm like, I can't be your personal punching bag.
Right.
I can't do this. So I need to just please don't contact me anymore. Like if until we can have normal, proper conversation, I can't do this.
Right. And we have to be selfish. And I know a lot of people are afraid of that word selfish, but let me change that. We need to show more self interest. And that
Self-respect is what I
self
call it. I
respect.
said, you know
Yeah.
what? I have self-respect. I
Mhm.
respect myself enough that I'm not going to let anybody treat me poorly. I'm not going to have people talk down to me, be rude to me. Like we have moments where we have arguments, but it's more than that. But I'm like, I have enough self-respect that I won't allow somebody else to treat me this way.
And you hit the nail on the head. It's about self love, self value, self respect, self interest, all those things. Because without the self, you can't externalize anything or give anything to anyone else. I mean, if you look at us like we're pitchers and we're meant to fill the cups and glasses of those around us, if we ourselves aren't being replenished, we have nothing to give. And the first part of replenishing your spirit and your energy is taking care of yourself. Once you get that down, then you can have relationships where other people can pour into you and you can pour into them. But if you're not dealing with self first, then you have nothing to go off of.
Sorry for the interruption. I just wanted to let you know about the Mind Matters weekly newsletter that is full of actionable tips to help you rewire your brain to live the life that you desire. Sign up for it at sallypeterson.com. And when you do, you'll get the top 5 brain hacks for peak performance. Again, you can get it at sallypeterson.com. Now back to the show. Right. I say that actually quite a bit to people who are in relationships, and I've said it in ways that sometimes I've offended people, and I don't mean it to offend, but I said when my daughter was younger, I was like, I'm the most important person in my life. They're like, but you have a daughter, and I'm like, I know, I'm the most important person. And then I believe the second most important people are both parents.
Right,
Unfortunately, my daughter's father passed away when she was 4. But then, so I think then it's like mom and dad. That relationship is second most important. And then
right,
third is relationship with the children. And I've had people get very mad at me. They're like, your children should be first. And just as we were saying, I said, no, because if I'm not doing well, how am I a good spouse or partner to that child's father?
right.
And if we don't have a good relationship, how are we good parents to the child? And that's what they see as, oh, that's what parenting is like. That's what being mom and dad is like. So they then have that in their mind as they get older and potentially have children in the future, that that's how you treat each other. That's normal. Mom's always supposed to be exhausted. That's normal. It's like, no, I can't be good unless I'm good. And then the relationship is good. And then the family is good.
Right, because the most powerful word and sentence we can say is no. We all have to learn to say no sometimes. Otherwise, we will end up having people run an emotional train on us, and that's not good. And when you say no, it's not that you're being dismissive; it's that you're prioritizing yourself, and
Right.
you have to do that. And like you said, I couldn't be the father that I am if I were not taking care of myself because I tried it the other way. I tried to put in the children first, and all that left me was broken and depleted. So once I started to take care of myself, then I noticed, hey, I'm being the father I want to be. Now I can be the type of husband one day I want to be because I'm pouring into myself and invested in myself. And people just get it so wrong, but a lot of it is social media and society, and we're getting all these mixed signals of how we should be, and
Oh, I
oftentimes
hate that
they
word.
are telling, yeah, and oftentimes people telling us how we should be, or they have a sense of they have ulterior motives because they want our
Mm,
energy, they want our time, they want to manipulate us. So if someone's telling you anything other than, hey, feed yourself first, it's just like when we get on the airplane and they do the thing about the mask and they tell you, put yours on first before you worry about your kid. Because if you pass out, what are either one of you gonna do? And that's a
right.
good example to look at life. If you don't sustain yourself, if you don't do things to fortify yourself or to keep yourself well or strong, you can't do anything for
Right.
anybody. And we need to learn that, and we need to make this shift in mindset in this society where it's less frivolity going on, and it's more about realness and things that are going to help us be better people instead of this image, instead of this woke agenda, instead of this, instead of that. So that's really where I am with it. I'm writing my book. It's going to be it's going to be more so about mindset, things that
Mhm.
I've learned, my personal journey in recovery in life and things I've been through. And I hope what it will do, it will illuminate things for people. And not saying that I can lead anybody to the promised land, but if you follow where I've been, you can get to where I'm going. And I've started my life coaching business, and as another way to do that. So my purpose is to try to help people. But I will preach till the sun goes down that we have to worry about self interest first. That's where many of us fall off.
I think so too. And I do think we do need to change our impression of being a little bit selfish, not in a narcissistic type way, because we automatically think it's that negative. But and we have to change our mindset. Um, we need to be careful. Like I often say to people, we need to really think about what our personal definition of success is.
Right.
Like what because it's not necessarily being famous, being a billionaire or multimillionaire and all of these things, because when we look at people who are famous, have all this money, have whatever, a lot of them don't have good relationships. They're not healthy. They are suicidal. They have addictions. I mean, there's a lot that, have a bunch of negativity going on. So to me,
Mhm.
that's not a successful life. They may be wealthy, but I don't think it's successful. And
Right,
that's the same with what is rich.
right,
Wealthy may be part of it, but to have a rich life, it is your health, it is your family, it is your friends, it's your community, it's how you're feeling, how you're doing, what you're doing, how are you spending your time. Those are the things that matter. It's unfortunately that marketing, in my opinion, over the years has done a really good job of convincing people that they need stuff to make them happy.
right.
And the reality is when we look at a lot of the happiest people in the world in different countries, a lot of them don't have a lot of stuff.
Right, because they found their purpose. That's the key to wealth. That's the key to mental,
Mm,
emotional, and spiritual wealth. It's not your dream because a dream is only fleeting. If your dream is to play in the Super Bowl and you accomplished it, then what? You saw a dream come true, but what is your purpose? What do you have after that? So once we realize what our purpose is and we strive for that, I feel like everything else will fall into place. I'm blessed in the sense that I feel like I realized my purpose. And so, now everything else, the wealth aspect, the other senses and areas where I want fulfillment will now come because we all have a purpose for being here. We all have that one thing or two things or three things that we are blessed to be able to do. And I think in the end, everyone's purpose is to find a way to serve your fellow man, to make the world a better place when
that's
you leave. And there should be in alignment with everyone's purpose, no matter what it is. If you want to be the greatest sanitation worker, be that. If that's your purpose, fine. If your ambition is to get a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, if that's your purpose and it leads you there, then fine. But don't be afraid of your purpose. A lot of people are afraid to step outside the box because one of my mottos for this year is to do what to get what I never have. I now have to do what I've never done.
that's
Yeah,
true, because if you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting
the
what you've
same
got.
result. And that is the textbook definition of insanity. And many of us are on the
Right.
hamster wheel of insanity as we do the same thing day in and day out and get frustrated as to why we get the same results. Why do we not excel and progress the way we want to? Why do we stay in these detrimental relationships? Why do we not find fulfillment? Because we have to switch up and do some things that are different, and it's scary. It's scary.
Mm,
But the definition of courage and bravery is pushing forward even though you do feel fear. And we
right.
have to foster our own self-esteem, our own self-value, and foster healthy relationships. And it's going to make doing those things and making those changes so much easier.
And I find too, a lot of times we are so scared and it's not that bad. Once we've done it and we go through, whether it's, learning something and we have challenging days where maybe we can't remember, get something quite right, and we make mistakes. I mean, but that's part of learning and growing, but none of them are really that scary. We get to a point like, and somebody was saying again on another podcast or something, was in 100 years I'm going to be gone. I'm going to be forgotten about. Nobody's going to know me. Maybe these videos and things might still be around. So then maybe people laugh a little bit at, oh, they used to think that. They didn't,
Right.
because technology and everything changes. But it's going to be forgotten about. It's
Right.
not even gonna matter. The only person it really is gonna matter is me and my closest circle because of those ripple effects of the things that I do and the people I help and things along the way. But eventually it'll be forgotten. And so it's not that scary and it's not gonna be somewhere forever. Um, and and so what? That's how we all learn. It's who learned to walk without falling down? Who learned to
Right.
ride a bike without falling off? Who learned to speak without saying the wrong words. Like,
You can't be afraid to make mistakes. That's the only way you learn. That's the only way you can improve. I mean, and don't view other people as competition. That's another thing that and I don't mean to rag too much on social media and societal norms, but we are constantly bombarded with images and thinking, well, that's what I should be. No, just worry about you.
right.
Worry about staying in your own lane. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, to who you were an hour ago. Did you gain something? Did you grow in some kind of way? That's the only thing we need to worry about. Don't worry about what the next person doing or has or what they say or what they feel. Because at the end of the day, when you're alone and whether they cremate us or bury us, it's going to be by ourselves.
That's right.
So
And
we have to
we haven't walked in their footsteps. Lots of times
right.
people are like, "Oh, oh, I wished I had that, or I would like to be like that person." You don't know what they've been through. You don't know what their life is like. You don't know what all of those moments are. Like, I know there's so many people that say, "Oh, I'd love to be Elon Musk." No, I don't think you really would. Maybe you'd like to have Elon Musk's money, Elon
Mhm.
Musk's popularity, but to have his brain and what goes on, like, I wouldn't want to. Even he says his brain just doesn't stop. He's like, "People don't understand. Most people would not want to be me." And I completely believe that. I think, like, he's got a totally different type of brain than other people. And so we think we wanna be like because we have an opinion, but we haven't walked through all the steps, through all the emotion, through all the things that that person has gone through to get to where they are. And if you want to have the life of somebody else, like, do what they do. Like,
Right.
actually try and do if
Exactly.
they're up at 5 o'clock in the morning playing practicing basketball for 8 hours a day, then going to a game, then doing whatever they're you go do it
Right.
day after day after day, because most people won't do what needs to be done to be even close to that person who they want to be.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing, because I don't believe in role models. I never believe in role models. I believe that you take people that you admire and you steal their habits. You do the things that help make them successful. But
Mm,
as far as being role models, I don't believe in that because we're all flawed. So and that's the thing
oh, yeah.
too. Oftentimes we look at other people and we think about the life we want instead of working to fortify and maximize the life we have, and you get so busy worrying about, well, so and so just bought a new Maserati or they're able to buy this Coach bag, but you're not looking at apply those principles that got them there to your life, and you can have the same thing without having to look at someone else as where you should be. Create your own vision. Become inspired, seek inspiration, but not motivation, because inspiration is external. Motivation is internal, and people get the two confused. They think, oh, someone motivated me. No, they can inspire you, but you have to find your own way to motivate yourself to get what you want,
Right.
instead of just trying to do a carbon copy of someone else's life. And usually the lives of the people that we tend to want to emulate are never reality anyway. I mean, look at materialistic.
Mm,
We look at celebrities, say, I brought up a Coach bag. Well, they have a Coach bag and I want one like it. But here's the thing you don't understand. They didn't even pay for it.
right. It was
You
given
know,
to them because they
it
get
was given to
photographed with it.
them. Yeah, if they didn't pay for it, then why are you going to spend 2, 3 grand on something they didn't even pay for? That doesn't make
Right.
sense.
Right.
So we need to not be so myopic in how we look at things, and look at the long game and look deeper into things and look deeper into ourselves, and we'll all be better off.
And I think especially I don't wanna be ragging on celebrities, but I'm going to. It's well, and not all, caveat, obviously not all, but if we looked at Hollywood and celebrities' music as well over the last 10-ish years, some people have been doing some pretty nasty stuff to, be famous, and are you willing to sell your soul to become famous? Because then, I mean, you've sold your soul and you've gotta deal with that, so it doesn't matter how many bags or shoes or watches or whatever that you have, because 'cause you're really trying to fill those holes because you did some stuff that you knew you shouldn't have done.
Exactly, exactly. And and that's the thing we have to bear in mind is that, I noticed, especially after this last election, celebrity worship has really gone above and beyond. I think it's what a lot of people do to try to keep themselves going and things like that. But we got to stop that. And we should, instead of worshiping anything other than God, we should try to look toward more wholesome things, more look at our own lives. We're so busy looking outside the
Mm,
window, we don't realize we're already in our own home. We already have everything we need is around us and in us. But we're so busy looking for external things and external gratification, it clouds us. So you really have to find solitude and do things to heal yourself. And like I said, especially if you have a diagnosable mental health condition, because that's a whole other issue. And that's why I'm a
right.
proponent of not just talking about mental health, but emotional health, situational things that may happen. You may be in a crisis and going through something. So it's not just those that a psychiatrist that diagnose that are on medication. It's everyone. We're all affected by mental health and emotional health. So it's time for us to focus in on ourselves, work on healing ourselves, tune the world out because there's a lot of static, a lot of noise. It'll just cloud you, and try to get back to self-interest in some simple traditional things in our lives.
That's so true. I mean, just the simplicity of things. Just even if when we think about it, and and I do have to catch myself sometimes and think about it and think like we were born. Like, what are the odds of us being born on planet and being on planet Earth in
Mhm.
in the universe that we don't even know extends to what? Like, it's such a miracle, really. And
It
the
is.
earth itself is so beautiful. Like,
Mhm.
get outside, go for walks, go on road trips if you can to check out different nature areas, waterfalls, mountains. I mean, it just, the earth is beautiful. And when we take in those good things, scientifically too, takes away our stresses, connects with the energy of earth, walk in your bare feet on some grass. Like I want to ask people, and I should actually do that as a survey of when was the last time you walked around outside without any shoes or socks on, like bare feet on the sand, grass, dirt, whatever, like ground, not sidewalk, pavement, concrete. Like when was the last time your feet have touched the earth?
Exactly, and that that leads to this point. We're so overstimulated by nonsense that our sensory perception is so off that we forgotten the basic things like just feeling the sun or the wind at your back. But we feel like we have to check our phones every 5 seconds. We have to be scrolling every 5 seconds. That's our only stimulation, and it's really negative. It's like if you drink coffee 24 hours a day, like I do, you're going to be wired. Sometimes you need to take a sip of water and relax and just give yourself space.
Mm,
And I think if people started doing that more, or if we made more room for that in our lives, we'd all be much better off. So sometimes you have to unplug,
yes.
sometimes you have to tune out. Don't worry about what Beyonce is doing. Don't worry about what the president is doing. Just worry about what you're doing for yourself, and that'll go a long way for all of us.
Pardon the interruption. If you're liking the show so far, please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. It really means a lot to me. It helps grow the show and the channel and to the show. Mm, I agree. And I often tell people there's a button on your phone. It's
Mhm.
called power. You can push it.
Right.
Sometimes it's good, or leave your phone at home when you go out to even just go to the grocery store without your phone.
Right.
Go buy your groceries. Ideally, go for a walk in the park, but little steps. Sometimes it is those little steps. Like one thing that I really hate about New Year's and New Year's resolutions, everybody says, okay, I'm going to make all these changes. I'm going to get healthy. So I'm going to exercise an hour a day. I'm going to drink 2 liters of water every day. And I'm going to and the list goes on. They've got like 5 things on their list. And right away I say, you're not going to last 2 weeks because it's
Right.
too many things. Like
Exactly.
it's just too much at one time. If those are your plans, plan that through the year. So January, I'm going to start by doing X, whatever that one thing is. I'm going to start walking at 10,000 steps a day, which is probably for most people about an hour-ish type walk
Mhm.
every day. And maybe that's too much to start. Maybe you want to build up, right? But it's take that one. I'm going to start drinking more water. I ideally want to drink, let's just say 2 liters of water a day. I don't drink that much. I need to be drinking more. But then it's like, okay, that's my goal for this month. Because then once I have the habit, then hopefully that habit will continue into the following months and then adding one more thing. And then by the end of X amount of months or year, I've accomplished those things. And sometimes we're going to mess up. We're going to kind of fall off the wagon. We're going to miss going to the gym because we got sick and then it's hard to get back into it or whatever it may be. But then realize, okay, that's all right. It happens. Let's start again.
Right. And we have to fix that disconnect between our brain and our butt. Our brain will tell us, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna walk 20 miles today. But then when it comes time to actually get up and do it and initiate those changes, that's the hard part. So that's why it's important to do your healing so you strengthen your mind to where it's easier for you to go from, okay, I'm setting, and first of all, we need to set smaller goals, more incremental goals, more realistic, doable goals. But if we can learn to kind of build, kind of close that chasm between our ambition and what we want and actually take action, because that's where fear comes in. Like you said, people have resolutions all year, but when it comes to actually time to actually do it, fear and hesitation gets in the way, procrastination gets in the way. So we have to
Well,
find
it's
a way.
uncomfortable because now
Right,
it's uncomfortable. I'm comfortable being with what I know and what I do and what I'm not doing. And okay, I'm not happy about it, but I'm comfortable with it. But now I have to get uncomfortable.
right. And how many times do people say, well, I'm starting a diet Monday? Start today. Start with your next
I didn't
meal.
say which Monday. Hey, I didn't say which Monday. I just said Monday.
Right, right. And I'm like, just start today. You don't have to go head first in anything, but start making those slight changes that are going to make it easier. Transition yourself, wean yourself off of things, and transition yourself into more positive habits. And that's hard to do because we have very much of an instant. Our mindset in this society is very much geared toward instant gratification. Everything has to be done in a week and a month. Man, give yourself time. Give yourself months to get where you want to be. I'm on an ascension. I'm on a path of progression and growth right now, and I realize, certain goals that I want. Yeah, it'd be nice to hit them in a month, but it may take 6 to 8 months, and that's okay. As long as I keep my mind right and keep pushing forward and keep doing my work every day, I notice I get better. I learn something that I did not know the day before. You can't be afraid of constant improvement. And there's a Japanese term called kaizen, which means to continually improve. And I've adopted that. So you have to adopt things and find habits that are going to build you and fortify your mind, and then you can take action.
Absolutely. And constant improvement is what we need. I was at I go to I always I was at a conference or a seminar because I go to lots of them because I'm always learning myself. And this one was probably around 20 years ago. And I don't remember who the speaker was, but he said something along the lines of our brain and our bodies are just like plants. We need to feed and we need to feed it. As we
Right.
give plant a water for it to grow, we need to feed our body good food, good energy, good knowledge, because if we're not growing, we're dying. And if a plant is not growing, it's dying. If your brain is not growing and active, it's dying. It may be dying quickly for some, for others, it's slowly, but it is dying. And I was like,
True.
oh, that's makes sense. And it's like everything, we think, oh, when I was in whatever grade, or I learned a second language so many years ago, but I haven't practiced or used it. Well, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Is it? Exactly, exactly. And we just have to get comfortable with our own process. I think, once people as individuals get comfortable with their own pace, their own process, their own style, what suits them,
Mm.
and really gain a sense of confidence and self awareness and accountability, then they can move on their own. But right now, I think it's like when you're in traffic, if you're constantly worried about the car in the next lane, you're going to have an accident. Be aware of the car in the next lane. Don't let them veer over into you, but you have to keep your eyes on the road and be aware of where you're going and how you get there.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that you said that I think is super important for people to really truly listen and to and realize is Like there is no one size fits all. What worked for your neighbor, your brother, your sister, your aunt, your cousin, the guy down the street, the whatever, whoever it was, the latest fad, whatever diet or whatever it may be, just because it's worked for thousands of people
Mhm.
doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Because just as it's worked for thousands, it has not worked for thousands. Because even though we're all human and physically the same, when it comes down to each of us at a cellular level, we are very different. Our brains are wired differently because of the lifestyles we've had, what we were taught, learned, treated as a kid, grew up, all of those types of things. And then at a cellular level, some people have allergies and sensitivities and this and that. Other people don't. So we can't just say, oh, well, it works for all these people that I know. What am I doing wrong that it's not working for me? Well, you're different as
Right.
everybody else is. Maybe luckily it did work for your those 5 people that you knew. But just
Mhm.
because it worked for them doesn't mean it's gonna work for you, and we need to find what works for me, and the challenging part to that is I may have to try several things to
Yeah.
figure out what works for me, and I can understand it's frustrating, but when we find the thing, it shouldn't be challenging, it shouldn't be that hard. It's the hard is going through all the things to figure it out, because then when it's whatever it is, our mental health is getting better, our physical health is getting better, our relationships are getting better. When we figure out what it is that works for us, everything starts to get better and it's easy or easier because it is flowing right and it's working. And when we see the things working, we want to do it more often.
Right. And we need to get over in our society about having a fear of failure. Sometimes you're just going to fall flat on your face. But I notice that every time in my life that I've fallen flat on my face, I've gotten up stronger. I have another feather in my cap from that experience. And we got to stop being afraid to fail because, you know, when you're afraid of failure, that means you're afraid of being judged. That means you're afraid of what other people think. You're not embracing your own experience because how many people are quote unquote successful, whatever that looks like for them, without having gone through several failures and several missteps. So we're so afraid to fail. We're so worried about our image. We're so worried about things like that. We're not actually living our lives. We're trying to live something that's not us. And like you
Right.
said, you know, we're not one size fits all, but like Bruce Lee said, he said, take what is useful and discard what isn't. So if there's someone whose habits you're imitating to get a certain result, if there are elements of it that don't work for you, discard those, but retain what does work for you. Build your own
Right.
path, build your own plan. And so many of us are afraid to do that. So hopefully in dealing with mental and emotional health and dealing with self-improvement and dealing with dealing with the spirit and the body and the mind, we can foster a culture of that where people are less afraid and people are more apt to try to live their best life. And
Mhm.
that's one of the things that I hope to do through my life coaching and nonprofit.
Yeah, and it almost is like we have to be like kids, right? When we were kids, anything was possible and we would do all kinds of stuff and we didn't care. We would do cartwheels down the street if we wanted to and who cares because that's what we felt like doing. I mean, we have to get back to that. Do a bunch of things. Some things will work, some won't. They're all learning experiences, but how do we know if we really like something or enjoy it if we don't even try it?
Right,
Most people who we would consider to be successful or anybody who is successful in anything, the more successful they are, they've had more failures.
right,
And I don't even like to use that word failures. I like to use learning experiences.
right,
Some of them hurt. Some of them are hard. Some of them are not too bad. Some of them I'm never doing that again. But they're
right,
all learning experiences.
right. That's true. That's true. And we can't be afraid of those experiences, even though they hurt. They
Mhm.
may cause us to bleed a little bit, but after a while, your scars scab over, and while they may still be visible, they've healed enough where you can move forward. And hopefully, people you can use your scars to help inspire other people. They can see where your wounds, they can see your pain, and they can know that they can survive what they're going through. So
Right.
that's what's really important, and that's what I feel like we need to grasp onto as a society and as a people, all of us. So
Mhm.
that's really just what I'm a proponent of, and what I'm an advocate for. It's healing.
No, it's so true. Absolutely. George, I want to be respectful of your time today, so I want to thank you very much. But before we leave, just tell us a little bit about some of the coaching and things that you do, and where would be the best place for people to connect with you.
Okay. Well, George P. Brooks, my life coaching business is Meta Mindset Mentoring and Coaching. You can reach us at www.metammc.com. That's metammc.com. You can schedule appointments. You can find out more about me and what we do and what we have to offer. If price is an issue, just contact us. We'll negotiate. I just want people to get help. And you can also reach me directly at 214-810-6518. Text or call, I answer 24/7. And if you want to collaborate or you need coaching or need me to come out and speak or want to work together on anything that's going to improve the lives of you or people that you know, just reach out. So that's metammc.com. And the number is 214-810-6518.
And I'll be sure to put links in that in the show notes to make it even easier for people to connect. So once again, thank you very much for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, and you have a blessed day.